So to get started, we're going to talk about how Maya plugins work and what we need to do when we're generating them. So they're built as a platform-specific shared library. So under Linux, you generally get a .so file, which is standard for a shared object library. Windows has a tendency to call them .mll as opposed to .dll files, so Maya link library. And on a Mac, which is what I'm using at the moment, they get turned into a .bundle, which is again is a different type of sort of shared object type file. Now, there are some issues that we must ensure the correct version of the C++ ABI application binary interface and VFX reference platform are used. This is nowhere near as bad as it used to be going back to, the early versions of like when we were on Maya 9 and before they became 2000s. We had to ensure that we had exactly the same G++ compiler as it was built with to work, otherwise there are all sorts of issues. So it has got a lot easier and we tend not to have as many issues anymore. So most modern versions of a compiler seem to work fine. Now, a few other things. So on Linux we have stood out. This is directed to the shell. Well, in the labs we type go Maya to run it, but where we open Maya. On Windows, stood out is directed to the output window, so it's a specific output window. So in general, stood out may not appear. So if we just do a printf or a stood cout, you may not see any results. That does catch people from time to time. That's why it's in the notes. Now, Maya ships with a tool called Maya LD, which is the Maya linker. We can generally see that. So if we go into the applications, Autodesk, Maya 24. I'll go in here. So on a Mac, you've got Maya.app, which is the bundle that it lives in, and in particular, you've got bin here. And you'll see if you look in the same thing, you can see here there's a script called Maya LD, and if you run Maya LD, it tries to generate an executable and build stuff up. This is quite old. I tend not to use it anymore, but if you have a look, Maya LD is just a shell script that goes off and tries to build and link all of your code for you. Nowadays, instead, I use CMake just because it makes it easier, and CMake works very well with most modern IDEs, be it Visual Studio Code, C-Lion, which is what I'm going to use, or Visual Studio, Qt Creator. All of them will work nicely. Now, the dev kit comes with, so we've got here my Maya dev kit 24, comes with a CMake folder. In particular, what you can see is in here, there's CMake plugin entry.cmake. And this gives us a series of very useful functions for generating plugins and other applications under Maya. So this is what we're going to use when we do all of our building. So I've set up my code to work with that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just clone the Maya API code here. And what you can see is it's just downloaded all of my demos and bits and pieces. So there's all sorts of stuff in this. And you'll see also there's this folder here called plugins. And what happens in my build projects is it will build all the individual bits of code and it will dump them all into this folder called plugins, which we can then set so that Maya can find this folder. So it just makes it a bit easier when you're sort of doing developing that you can set this up. So there's two environment variables that need to be set before you can do this. So I've got dev kit location, missed out $1 there. So you can see in this, if I echo dev kit location, this is pointing to the location where I've set the dev kit. So in Windows, Mac or Linux, you just need to set this up. few other things you're going to need. You need to ensure that you've got the correct build tools installed. Now, I'm assuming, because this is sort of aimed at advanced C++ programmers, you've already got either Visual Studio with the command line tools installed. On the Mac, it's Xcode command line tools, and on Linux, it's just the developer tools. So you install those, you should be able to run CMake. After that, as long as you set this dev kit location environment variable to point to where you've downloaded the Maya API, then if we have a look at the CMake lists here, what it's going to do is going to just go through and try and build all of the examples. These are all subdirectory projects and so on. And what we can do is the standard CMake build, mkdir build, cd build. I'm going to use Ninja because it's quicker. You can just create a Makefile one or an Xcode project depending on what you want to do with CMake, but Ninja is nice and quick. So that's gone through, it's found everything I want. There's a few deprecation warnings which I should update. I will do that. And then I can run Ninja and you can see it's going off. I've got a few warnings still in my code. There's a few bits I still need to update to the latest one, so I've got deprecation warnings. And what we should see, if I go into this folder plugins now, you can see here are my bundles. These are the examples that we're going to look at over the next few lectures that we've generated. Now, the next thing is we need to tell Maya where these live. Now, Maya has a startup text file that it reads called maya.env. So on Mac, it's in Library, Preferences, Autodesk, Maya 2024, and it's maya.env. On Windows, it's in a different location, and on Linux, it's in Maya. So your home directory, Maya. And if we set this environment variable, so here you can see Maya underscore plugin path equals, and this is the location where my API code is. Notice I cloned it in temp to demonstrate the cloning. Actually, this is where I'm working. So that's the plugins folder that is got all of these in. And what will happen is when we open up Maya and go to the Windows Settings Preferences Plugin Manager, you'll have to restart Maya for Maya.env to be reread because it doesn't automatically reread it. And what you can see here now is that this Maya API code plugin has a list of all those plugins there. So we've just told Maya where to search. So when you're developing, it makes life a lot easier to do this. And you can see there's all sorts of different plugins here that we're going to look at, and we can enable them individually. So if I click on that now, click on the eye, you can see that here's the version that's been done, and there's a command. So I should be able to do cmds.hello Maya, run that, and you can see Maya has printed some stuff out here, which is what we're going to look at in the next one, generating a very, very simple command. So there are instructions for setting most of this up in the readme.md here as well. So everything I've talked about here explains it all there as well. So hopefully, notice a typo. Hopefully that will help you get it all working and ready. So in the next lecture, or the next part of this lecture, we're going to start looking at some of the Maya API code and how it works, and I'll go through in detail how the CMake list works and everything else.